Hey guys, what's up? How are y'all doing? So I don't know if many of you remember this or would even or have even watched this or whatever. A while ago, I did an unplugged on some of my memories of the Final Fantasy series. Now, in that video, I did kind of talk about some of my memories. Mostly, though, I kind of focused on the fact that my first exposure to, well, my curiosity for the Final Fantasy series, I think is more accurate, is was when I saw a box of Pepsi that one of my parents had bought when I was a kid, and it had Final Fantasy VII characters on it. And at the time, I didn't really know what that was, but it fascinated me. Now, I did gloss on some of my other experiences with the Final Fantasy series, but I didn't really elaborate much on exactly how far that went or where it went or anything like that. So, in this series, I'll be elaborating a bit more on that and going a bit more in depth on all of my various experiences with the Final Fantasy series as a whole. So today I am going to be doing a video where today we're going to be learning about my second experience with the Final Fantasy series, which happened when I was about 9 years old. I was 8 years old, 9 years old. Anyway, here we go. So back in the late '90s, back in the mid to late '90s, when the PlayStation 1 was, a thing, there were these things that there were these games that would come out on these demo discs for all you Gen Zers and Gen Alphas who might not know. That was how games came out. Sometimes was on these demo discs, and sometimes you'd find them either in video game magazines or sometimes you'd get them at Pizza Hut. This one time, my older brother and I, we went on a sleepover to one of my brother's friend's houses, and he had in his house a demo disc from Pizza Hut. And here's what's interesting. This demo disc, and like I said, I'm 8 years old, 9 years old around this time, and I still have no idea what the Final Fantasy series is, what it's about, what any of the games are like, or anything. So anyway, we're on this sleepover, and my brother's friend loads this disc into his PlayStation, and what's interesting is that this demo disc, it came with a few other demos of games that I found interesting, that I still find interesting to this day. One of them was Sledstorm, which is probably one of the few sports games that I genuinely like. One of them was for Spyro Ripto's Rage. The other one was for Ape Escape. There was another one for Crash Team Racing. And then there was this demo for this other game called Final Fantasy VIII. Now, here's what's interesting about that. What's interesting is that how the demo itself opened was there was a black screen and there was blue text that was basically explaining like what was about to happen in the game, kind of the setup that was leading to it and all that. And then the game goes into, it's a reflection on the water, but you don't know that it is until a few seconds later. But on the reflection, you see the moon. You see these like columns of these like ships that are moving in like a uniform direction, and then some music starts up and it says Final Fantasy VIII demo version, and then you get into it, and then when you get into it, the demo plops you into the middle of these ships that are moving across the water, and on the top of one of these ships is this man who's the main character, Squall Leonhardt, and he's sitting on top of this ship. He is looking out at the island that lies before him, and on this island there are these explosions that are happening. There are people that are flying everywhere, and the ship not only that he's on, but the other ships are making their way through the water. They break through this wall that's around this island, and they hit the shore. Now, when they hit the shore, it's interesting because like it transitions immediately into a sequence where the ships open up and people start coming out. And when they come out, basically the job of you and the main group is to secure the city of the island that you're on and whatnot. And so gradually, you and your group, you make your way through the city. And as you're making your way through the city, you're finding the soldiers of this enemy army and whatnot. And the further you get through the city, you come to this square in the middle of the city. Now, when you stop there, something interesting. Well, when I was 8, 9 years old, I found this interesting. You guys stop, and when you stop, you guys are basically sitting there and you're waiting. Now, when you're waiting, Cypher and one of the other people in the group start getting into this argument, and then Cypher lets out a cuss word, and I remember my 9-year-old self thinking, what is this? Are they allowed to swear in a video game? I did not think that was even, legal or even a thing or whatever. And anyway, so basically the gist is that Cypher basically feels like they've fulfilled their duty, but that the position that they're stuck in is really boring, so they decide to. So Cypher's like, why don't we make our way up the summit? And so he, along with the rest of the people in your group, you guys make your way through the outside of the city toward this bridge. And when you get across this bridge, you come to this mountain. And as you're climbing this mountain, you start to fight monsters. You start to fight these dragon, like snake things that have like green and orangish skin. You fight these demonic unicorn looking things that have these purple horns that go in like a curved C-shape type thing. And then you finally get to the top of the mountain on this island, and there's this transmitter tower that has a satellite, and the satellite basically transmits to this monster that comes out. Now, what's interesting is that before this monster fight, you have to fight these two other soldiers named Biggs and Wedge. Yeah, I know, the obvious Star Wars reference, right? Anyway, and then after you fight them, the monster that they transmit to comes out. This like really big dragon gargoyle type thing comes out. You fight that thing, but here's the crazy thing: after you defeated that thing, there's another monster that comes out. But this monster, I would argue, was in some ways scarier than the dragon gargoyle thing. It was this giant robot spider that comes out, and now it turns into you and your buddies having to run away from this thing, disable this thing, and get your way back to the shore as fast as you can back to the ships. And so you disable this thing at like a couple different points as you're making your way back down the summit, back through the city and whatnot. And here's what's interesting. As you're making your way back through the city, like the transition of the spire coming through the city mishmashes with the background and everything, which was really cool. And then finally, you and your team make it down to the shoreline. You guys are barely making it back to the ship that you came in on. Finally, the main guy, Squall, he jumps, he barely makes it to the ship, and there's a soldier who is manning the machine gun turret inside of the ship and just starts shooting and shooting at that thing, and the thing falls down dead and explodes. Yeah, the whole entire thing plays out like an action movie, and my 8, 9-year-old little brain just exploded with curiosity, imagination, and excitement. And to speak to the impact that this game demo had on me, Squall was the first cosplay that I'd ever done, and I'm as much of a fan of Final Fantasy VIII then as I am nowadays. I even have the remastered version. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed that peek into my experience with the demo of Final Fantasy VIII, and I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, leave me a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!